There is yet another Chinese brand coming to the Australian market, and it's got an electric SUV as one of its most important models. The brand is GAC, and this is the Aion V. You can see Aion spelled on the front there. This is a medium-sized electric SUV. The price is low, the specs are high, and the driving experience is actually pretty good. Let's run you through all of the important details for this new model.
The GAC Aion V has a price that starts at $42,590 plus on-road costs for the entry grade level. Prices go up to $44,590 for the top spec luxury. This car has a 75.3 kilowatt hour LFP battery, which gives a claimed driving range of 510 kilometers according to WLTP testing. Charging speeds can be as fast as 180 kilowatts, which means you can get from 10 to 80% in around 25 minutes. There's a single electric motor at the front of the Aion V, which makes it front-wheel drive, and you've got 150 kilowatts and 210 newton meters there. Standard equipment here includes 19-inch alloy wheels, LED headlights and tail lights, an electric tailgate and sunroof. On the inside, you have a 14.6-inch infotainment display with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, an 8.9-inch digital instrument cluster, dual-zone climate control, and interior ambient lighting. There's also electric seat adjustment here with memory, heated and front rear outboard seats, ventilated front seats, and a heated steering wheel. Going for the luxury trim level gets you upgraded interior trimming materials, along with a second-row tray table, massaging front seats, an upgraded climate control system for sensing small particulates, and an inbuilt cooler and heater in the center console that can go to either minus 15 degrees or up to 50.
Well, if you spent any time in, let's be honest, any Chinese car that has come to the Australian market recently, you'll see a lot of similar design cues here in this Aion V. So we've got wireless charging up here with this sort of floating center console setup. You've got a bit of storage down below there as well with your power outlets. One interesting thing about this model is the fridge you've got actually in this center console here. That's a refrigerated space there. That's pretty cool, especially for the asking price. 2 cup holders, air vents, and barely a physical button to be seen. Now, I find it problematic myself, especially when you've got smartphone mirroring happening on this big screen here in front of you. That means things like climate controls, navigation, audio, whatever it might be, is just a little bit buried through this screen. So you do have some controls on the steering wheel. It's not immediately obvious what they are because, once again, it's all simplified and cleaned up. Once you own this car for long enough, you'll probably get used to all of these problems. We have had a fairly short drive in this vehicle, just for your reference, but we've got a decent little digital cluster in front of us there, good seat comfort, and the build quality I think is really good in this car. It doesn't feel flimsy, doesn't feel cheap. We haven't had any squeaks or rattles really on this initial test drive. So initial impressions there are good, but I will hazard that by saying the first test drive has been fairly short behind the wheel. I've spent a bit of time as a driver and a bit of time as a passenger, but we'll learn a lot more about this car when we get it through from review in later days. But initial impressions are mostly pretty positive. Here's the second row of the Aion, and one thing you absolutely cannot knock about this car is the amount of space and comfort that you get in the second row. Now that's my driving position up front. I'm around 1.8 meters tall and I've got bucket loads and bucket loads of legroom here. Headroom is really good also, even though we do have a big sunroof here. And one other thing to note, if you're thinking about putting baby seats into the back of here, obviously room is really good, but another detail is that door opens almost to the full 90 degrees. So in terms of getting into and out of the second row, you've got heaps of space, which is really handy, I think. We've got air vents in the B pillar here. We've got air conditioning controls in the back, even a smart little pop-out desk, which surprisingly doesn't feel flimsy. It feels pretty quality. It's a nice addition to have for kids who want to do some drawing or whatnot on the road. And of course, a pop-down armrest with cup holders in the middle. So second row, this car does really, really well. Now for family buyers, boot space is obviously very important. So let me just show you. Electric boot in this vehicle, of course, and a beeping noise, which makes it sound like the car's about to reverse over you. It's not though, there's no one in the driver's seat. This is the boot space here. GAC says 427 litres of space overall, and it does drop down a little bit for that extra room. Now, if I pop that up to have a look underneath, you do not get a spare wheel in this vehicle. It looks like there is room for a space saver spare, but you get an inflation kit, which is inferior, in my opinion, to an actual spare. You could even actually jack the floor of this boot up to the topmost spot. Obviously, then you've got less space overall, but plenty of room actually for a full-size spare in this car, which is a rare thing for an electric vehicle to have. Some do it, but most don't. But that is an option. Maybe you can just buy a spare yourself and throw it in, check in at the dealer or something like that. I'm not sure what the deal is there, but there's no spare as standard kit. Otherwise, it's not a bad size boot in terms of overall space. There are bigger ones out there, but you do have some adjustability here, which is good. There's not a lot really to report on in the driving experience of this Aion V. Now that might sound disparaging in a way, but actually it's pretty good news. This is a car that is quite painless to drive overall, but it does have a little bit more polish and control to it than other cheap electric SUVs from China. I'm thinking about things like the Leapmotor C10 and also the Geely EX5. This does feel like a cut above both of those, even though the pricing is fairly similar. You've got 150 kilowatts here and 210 Newton meters, not huge amounts of power or torque, but you know what? There's enough grunt there to get you around town on the highway doing whatever you need to do. And importantly, the vehicle can generally handle the power and torque that front electric motor can deliver. So that is good. So it's got enough power and torque for the job, but at the same time, it doesn't have so much that it overwhelms the front wheels in terms of traction or cornering and that sort of thing. Now we're currently in the Southern Highlands of New South Wales. It's around a 31, 32 degree day. It's hot sun bearing down. You can see it on my face at the moment as we're driving, and I'm speaking quite loudly because I've got the aircon cranked at its highest level, highest fan speed and lowest temperature. And to be honest with you, the air conditioning performance is a bit underwhelming in this car, and that's going to be an important consideration for a lot of buyers in the suburbs on those hot, sweltering days. You just want to cool down that car quickly. This doesn't really have the air conditioning grunt to do it that well. Now you might hear a few beeps and bongs coming from the car, just like you had just then. That was the driver attention warning going off at me, and well, surprise, surprise, that is one of the shortcomings of this vehicle overall. It's a bit too noisy and over attentive for my liking, so it's going off constantly. Even when I'm not doing a piece to camera, when I'm looking dead ahead, the car just tends to beep a lot. You also get a bit of traffic sign recognition beeping from time to time as well, and it's just annoying, and it could be better. This is the same problem that you have in a lot of cars. It can be turned off. It's not that straightforward to do. And even if it is able to be turned off, you know what? It should be better anyway in its normal setting for me. So that is one major negative of this Aion V in terms of the everyday driving experience. But beeps and bongs aside, this EV SUV from GAC is actually quite painless overall. Ride quality is good. You can feel the weight of the fact that this is an electric car, absolutely, but it doesn't feel too sharp over bumps. So it's not too hard, not too soft. It does sit in a nice balanced area there. It steers well enough, it rides well, and I don't know if it's just me, but there is a little sense of quality here in this car that maybe isn't present in other electric SUVs at this price point. It feels fairly well bolted together overall. There's no rattles or squeaks, no sort of shunting from the steering or the brakes or transmission. I mean, this is a car that, you know what, it's fine. It's not excellent in any particular way, but it really doesn't have much to complain about at the same time. Well, I'm not going to lie, the first drive of this Aion V for us was fairly brief, so we don't have a full verdict really yet to give on this car. Now, I do have some question marks around efficiency of this vehicle. Initial figures weren't too impressive in that regard, and that old problem of driver monitoring is an issue here as well. Traffic sign recognition, driver monitoring, distraction warnings, they're all a problem that could be better in this car, absolutely. But I think this car does have a fair amount of polish, especially for the asking price. You look at things like the Geely EX5, Leapmotor vehicles, they do feel a bit unpolished in some ways. This does feel a bit better. The drive, the ride, the general build quality and cohesion does go up a step here But let's be honest, this Aion V still has a massive fight on its hands to be successful in Australia. It's in such a congested market here, and even just getting the attention of buyers is going to be a bit of a challenge. But hey, if you do get yourself behind the wheel of this car, you might be surprised because it's not too bad.